Oh, white's in check. Sorry, my bad. White's in check. Breaks through e6 though. Yeah, now white's up a bishop. Whew. All right. I got disconnected from chat for 1 second. What would I expect to be a reasonable depth of calculation in a game between two USCF 1500 rated folks? I ask because I think of myself as a calculator, but have been told 3-ply. I mean, so there, it would be with some mistakes here or there, but I would say 1500s should be trying to look at least. Well, it depends when it's a calculation position or not, right? Of course, but I would expect that a few times per game, a 1500 would try to look 3 moves ahead. And most of the time be looking 1 or 2 moves for white and black ahead. But for example, in a position like this, well, sorry. Let's take an example from this game. Early on, right, when black started the tactics. After f4, when black playing knight takes f4, I would expect them to have calculated rook f4 for white and planned that they were taking this pawn. So that's already 3-ply ahead, Carl. But then in that position, I would think they're looking, is there any way for this rook to escape me? So they're looking at least one more move ahead, I think, right? Like, am I going to be able to collect this rook that I'm planning to leave here in order to win the pawn? So that's at least 4-ply, Yeah, I think the internet blipped for a second. Sorry about that, but hopefully it's still working. Let me check if the YouTube stream is still up. Oh no. It looks like it died? Yeah, thanks for letting me know. Chess Dojo. It looks like it restarted at a new link. Okay, so for anyone on Twitch who was on YouTube, YouTube should be alive again. Someone says Twitch isn't working. I wish I were decent. You must be Graham. Blip for 2 minutes on all platforms. Well, that's lame. Sorry about that. Sorry, I guess I missed some questions and stuff. My OBS shows that it's been up for 2 hours without any dropped frames, but you guys are right. Like, it definitely seems to have disconnected on the platforms. Sorry about that. So I was just trying to answer this question from Carl about how far ahead, 1500s are supposed to look. And I would say I expect, Carl, that they can look 3 or 4-ply ahead decently, but that during the key calculation moments in a game, such as what Hermat's opted into here with knight f4, knight e5, right? During those moments, they should be striving to calculate 5 to 6-ply ahead, right? Which means 3 moves for themselves and the opponent. Now, they should expect that there will be some errors in those calculations, but that's the ambition. They're trying to calculate there if they can. In general, everyone should always be trying to push themselves to just calculate a tiny bit better than they could before, but not insanely better, right? Like, if normally you calculate 3 moves ahead, in a case that Graham gave us earlier today, if normally you calculate 3 moves ahead, Should you tomorrow try and calculate a mate in 9? It's illogical, right? Like it's too far ahead. Like I swim my 100-yard freestyle at my very fastest in 1:16. So every day when I swim, well, I don't always swim the 100. I sometimes do all kinds of different lengths, right? But anytime I swim the 100, I try to swim it in 1:15, right? I don't try and swim it in 1 minute, right? I don't try and go from 1:16 to 1 minute. Does that make sense? I try and go from 1:16 to 1:15. So similarly, if you're calculating 3-ply ahead, you should try and push yourself to calculate 4-ply ahead, not 10-ply ahead, right? Or if you calculate 4-ply ahead but with a lot of mistakes, you should try calculating 4-ply ahead but with less mistakes, etc. It's logical, yeah. It's pretty simple. A lot of the stuff I end up saying like again and again, I'm like, it's so logical. Why am I even saying it? Yeah, knight f4 was an exciting move. Black grabs 2 pawns with the idea that they'll be able to at least get the rook for bishop as well afterwards. But then, matters how good their pawns are, etc. And white managed to then get the advantage by combining their remaining pieces really nicely, playing against e6 with their positional advantages. And black's pawns didn't end up being worth very much. Oh, good call, Alexander. If black had gone knight g6, maybe white would have had knight d7. Yeah. That's a very messy moment, though, right? Bishop f4, knight f4. There's so many moves here that could be played, right? Rook c2. That's going to be hard for me to calculate accurately. Thanks, Alex. And thanks, Graham. It's really fun having you around. I feel like maybe we should push you to to try sleeping. Because you can come back. The dojo will be here on Monday, right? When your tournament's done. You can upload your games to the website. We can click through them and everything. I've been working on it so much, Stamen, and I'm literally 0 seconds faster than I was 3 months ago. And I've worked so much, and I'm swimming, an hour and 5 minutes instead of 20 minutes a day, and it's still like 0 seconds faster. But I don't know, not getting worse either. So, okay. So let's check out let's get back to one of the other games. 8 bells. Let's see what they were able to do with that H file. We wish you a grand old time tomorrow, Graham. We wish you to play a couple more long games. We wish you to meet some cool chess people, have a post-mortem at some point, keep your stamina up. You'd probably be more tired Sunday night than you often are. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you've got experiences in your life that are much more exhausting than I could guess. But for most people, the first time they play an OTB tournament, you're going to experience a kind of fatigue on Sunday that you're not exactly accustomed with yet, So good luck. Good luck keeping your strength up. Is my form improved, and how about my lungs? I don't know, Alex. I'm guessing my form hasn't really improved because my times probably would have gotten better if my form has improved. I think I've gotten a little bit stronger, and I think my lungs are definitely a bit better. So yeah, I guess my form probably hasn't improved. When I'm swimming a short distance, like a 50 or 100, I feel like I just like I can't like I have nothing to even push harder on. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I've got some strength left, but I can't even use it. Does that make sense? Like if I had to like push against the air to push myself that way, like I can't push any harder on the air, but not go. So like the water, it doesn't feel like it's even giving me enough resistance. Maybe I need to like catch better or something, but I'm I feel like I've got extra strength that I can't even quite use yet. Or maybe, as Stamen says, it's just counterproductive to try to push harder. Is that guy okay? Good night, Graham. Say hi to the other two dojoers for me. You know. Yeah. I've even watched a few videos on YouTube, Alex, but I think like with chess knowledge, it takes a while for stuff to sink in, right? Because you can only think about so much while you're swimming. And for folks who aren't into swimming, I apologize. This isn't so much a tangent because this is really it's how like all improvement works in all fields, right? So what I'm about to say is as relevant to chess as to swimming. In chess, sometimes you've got people who've watched like 100 YouTube videos, right? But when they're playing a game, it's too much stuff to think about. That's why I'm always telling people like have an area of focus. Like do a little calculation, look over your games, but have like a thing that you're working on for a few weeks you're trying to get better at. Like one book you're reading or you're sparring all the different endgame sparring positions or something like that. And then also when you go to a tournament, to bring basically one or two or at the most three goals with you. Because if you've got 10 goals, you're going to forget your goals. The point of a goal is not to forget your goal at the tournament. The goal is supposed to provide you focus and clarity and keep you on task and defend you against emotional bumps and things like that, right? So you gotta, you gotta have like a limited number of things you're working on. So when I watched like a couple YouTube videos about swimming and they tell me something like, rotate, like telling me to rotate the torso, not just the shoulders, but the torso, but not too much the hips, right? So there's like a certain amount that's like the right amount to rotate and some amount that's like too much or too little between strokes, right? Then I watch another video and it's showing me like, oh, if I breathe out later in my stroke, then I've got that extra air in me giving me lift and buoyancy. So a little bit less of me is underwater while I'm swimming. If I'm holding my breath a little longer, the air inside my lungs, right, is floating me a little bit more. So you want to blow out like fast at the end and then breathe in quickly, right? So you blow out as soon as you can before you need to breathe in, but you have to breathe out hard to get the air out and replace it, to get all the to get a bunch of CO2 out, right, and replace it. So that's like two things already, right? Then let's say, thinking something else about, I don't know, maybe the rhythm of your kick, how many kicks you want to do per stroke, which is sort of like something I never really thought about. Or what else could it be? It could be, I could think about like how close do I want my fingers to each other? Do I want them like actually touching or just like a tiny bit apart like that? Once you've got 3 or 4 things like that in your head, like you're overloaded, right? How are you thinking about all of that while you go? So I'll usually pick one thing at a time to work on or think about when I'm swimming, just like the advice I normally give people for chess. So, is this position miserable for black? Maybe. Material's still equal, right? White didn't win a pawn. They broke through the h-file without winning a pawn. Is black still tangled up and miserable? Yes, every piece is worse. But this is epic, right? This is a game that's been going for almost 2 hours, and the players have used like all their time. Black's not cracking. They're not hanging anything. All this way here. Right, you can take videos of the person swimming, which I don't have, and then look at it, and then I can see what am I doing right or wrong. Like, I'm kind of guessing what I could be working on, right? Because I don't even see my own game scores, right? I'm guessing, oh, let me work on that, let me work on that. But if I could actually see myself swim, then maybe I would know that my legs were down, or maybe my legs are up. And whichever it is, that would tell me if I need to work on my legs and my kick or my core or something, right? Maybe if I saw my stroke, I would see I'm like crossing the midline too much or something, but I can't see it, so I don't know what I really need to be working on. You think I can break 1 minute just with good posture? Breaking a minute seems so far away, Stamen. It seems so far away. Yeah. Let's backtrack a few moves in this position and like see how white got through the H-file. They got through the H-file by trading the advanced G-pawn. They didn't want to give black time to play G6 if they were doubling the rooks. So white broke the file open right away, which makes so much sense. Ooh, I don't know if we wanted to throw that G5. Like, maybe keep the flexibility of this or this. See if we can come around and steal this square and make it a mate. I don't know. But okay, white pushed it back. Got into the 8th rank. Brought the second rook. Stops b6 and c5. Gets the knight sunk deep. Gets kicked back. Black finally gets control of like a dark square on the board with this b pawn, right? Woo! b6 pawn! Holding them back. Doubling on the 8th rank. So the knight's still technically defended, but maybe black wants to play a move like this or this to get the rook defending this stuff. Oh, it's so tough. But how to ever break through, right? How to break through. I feel like this knight maybe needs to come all the way around the board here to increase the pressure. Does that make sense? Maybe. Or you could play c4, c5 and try and crack another dark square with the help of this pawn. And that evil little b3 move from long ago. I hope 8 Bells and Alyechin's cat are enjoying this game. It's glorious to play a game so close and so hard fought where your opponent never makes a mistake and you have to stay tense the whole game. Just on that razor's edge. Yeah, this guy is referencing Alyechin's cat, right? The name is Alyechin's cat. There's a picture of the cat right there. Alyechin's tabby. Rumor has it, right? He tried to cross the border with his cat under his arm and no passport. Saying something about, like, I don't need a passport. I'm Alyechin, you know, the champion of the world. Maybe knight g6 would allow white to break the defenses with rook e8, right? So black needs to open up more defense of the knight right here. That's correct, Grenbork. So Spencer asking, how should I approach analyzing my game? I can't give you an extensive answer right now, Spencer, like not an appropriate answer. I've got a video up on the subject. Kostia's got a video up on the subject. Kostia, Jesse, and I published a book on the subject. But at its most basic level, analyzing a game you've played is just the act of looking at moves that weren't played in the game and comparing them to moves that were played in the game. The point of analyzing a game is not to answer every question about the game. It's not to know the truth about the game, right? Like I think we're worried like, well, an engine can tell me the truth, but how am I ever going to know the truth? You're not. You're not good enough to know the truth. You're just doing the exercise. The point is not necessarily in the answers you draw from it. It's in the actual exercise of looking for the answers. Right, Stamen. Yeah, I wonder if my feet drag or not. Easily under 1 minute? No, I don't know. I don't know. I can't do it, I don't know how easily it would be for me. But I do understand that the goal is as much about reducing drag as about providing propulsion, if not more. So, I understand that. And I've really improved my push off the wall by, I realize, a lot of people think, you make, sort of a pointy shape. And then when you watch, really good swimmers, their arms are pressed against their ears. And their hands are like this. And I think they even use, a finger to clamp their hands together. So it's, just, a whole different level of, it's like a rigid arrow that they're making with themselves. So I understand that. And I do that on my push-offs now. And I find that during my push-off, I can just let myself glide for a while, and I'm going as fast as if I would swim, right? So that's conserving a lot of energy, that I just do a good push-off and believe in it just gliding instead of popping out of the water and starting to slap it as soon as I can again. Chin to chest, but then I can't look forward. Don't I need a time, wouldn't it be enough to be like this? Shouldn't I be more straight? I feel like this would cause my head to be too low. Not that we want to completely switch this from chess to swimming. So bishop d7. Of course, Alyekin's cat spots the pressure against e against the knight here. Knight here would just go here. Nothing wrong. Now, could white do this, trying to set up knight g6, trapping the rook? No, because the knight on f7 will still be defending it here. So, white to play now. Bishop d7 looks perfectly good. For white, I'm thinking we've got the idea of c4, c5, which even has a little bit of risk because some hand-to-hand combat over here where the black rook is lurking. Or my lengthy knight maneuver to pressure that g7 pawn, which is honestly what I believe in most. It's possible, Carl, that adding core strength would let me hold my legs up behind me better and improve my swim a lot. I don't know. Chin should be neutral to tucked. Wow, I try to keep the chin neutral. I would have never thought that you would tuck it. But I guess tucking it, even if the head position seems bad, it does kind of push your back up. So if you were dragging with your belly down, tucking your chin a little bit would help with that. I try to just be completely flat. Dabo is a very strong player, that's right. Okay. We have a move already. Knight to g6. Yeah, this was an easy one for black to defend against rook f7, no question. Could the bishop... Oh, yeah. The bishop or the knight could come here, huh, Spencer? Because right... Oh, wait, but the bishop can't get to h5, Spencer. Look at that. Because of the f3 pawn, there's no way to get there. Yeah, I do see the point, huh? Okay, there's one other thing white can do. You could put the pawn on g6 at some point, right? And then you could even put your rook on f7, right? And they can't take it with their knight, their rook, anything, because it basically just promotes that g pawn. So that's one more idea white could do, is put this pawn here and then come in here. But I would probably first bring my knight to the game. White's played knight back to g6. So that's one repetition. Knight e5, rook e7. Oh, and white didn't repeat. Haha, they were just doing that evil thing, right? Always repeat. Black quickly plays a5. That's one less responsibility for this rook, so it can move. I think one tiny, tiny error for Alekin's cat was at some point they played a6, where the pawn should have just been sitting on a7. But, okay, it comes here. Now the rook's free. So it can go here, 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 whatever. I'll show you one move for black that doesn't work. Just a tiny little calculation that I did at some point, which is you can't play c5 as black with the idea of bishop takes a4. Pawn takes, right? That would sort of like take a lot of the pressure off. But you can't do it because there's always going to be a discovered check. An in-between check, right? A capture here. And then you take back with an extra piece. Yeah, I know that. I didn't know how many years you'd been with USA Swimming, Stamen, but I knew that your son was like a very good swimmer, so I know that you know your stuff. Chess is hard indeed, Purple Leopard. But Purple Leopards are so darn awesome, I'm sure you can develop your chess skills to a pretty good point. Possible trade incoming. I think that reduces the pressure a little bit for black. Wow, the cat might hold on. I'm believing in the potential of black holding on after seeing that rook trade. I believe there's a chance. What were you thinking about, Lauren? Is c5 now possible? Well, first white's gonna have to move the rook away from this, right? So I'm curious where they put it. Once they've moved the rook away, could you play c5? Possibly. With the idea of pawn takes pawn, bishop takes a4, pawn takes b6, check, king takes b6, then pawn takes bishop. That would lose a pawn for black, but white's extra pawn would be a doubled a pawn of very minimal value. My idea was knight takes bishop, king takes knight, knight takes pawn, winning the rook. Okay, let's check that. So that would be right here. Knight takes, right, the king's here. So this would lose straight forwardly. So the king would have to go, the rook would have to be the one to take. And then, is there any advantage from that trade? No. No. Here's my idea that I think I would flag as very interesting here. My overall idea is the knight maneuver to h5, but hard to show it because it's like 4 moves away. But this move here, I've got the plan of rook f7. That plan's immediately going to be significant because the rook on e7 is undefended. And if the opponent has to come defend it with the king, for example, then all these pawns here become loose. You're welcome to use descriptive. I certainly know what you mean. The knight on d6. Well, basically, Spencer, this pawn is too close to queening. Black can't take on f7 because this always happens. So it's real pressure. I played rook b8 to defend this pawn in advance, to maybe play here for black. But, you know, they can never take on f7, so we've ratcheted up the pressure with this guy in here, right? And, yeah, I don't know what comes next. Maybe this. Let's follow the game. We got knight g6, rook f7, a trade, rook h7, knight comes back to d6, knight comes back to e5. Trade's been made. It's just reduced the pressure a little bit. Black's still bundled into this little corner. White still doesn't have a breakthrough. Whew. Mm-hmm. This one here. So here you think maybe we could do this? And knight takes bishop. This guy's still managing to hold it down. Everything's defended for now. No, it's a bishop in a locked position, right? So it's not doing the maximum. Yeah, that's why in this position, Lauren, against g6, the first thing I did was I played rook b8, covering that to free up the king to try and hold off rook f7. King d2, knight b7. It's almost as if well, you know, in this case I was defending against my own moves, so I definitely knew what my idea was. What do you mean by a slight internal rotation of the shoulder, Dabo? Does that mean that my shoulders are slightly in like this? I'm exaggerating it to show what I'm talking about, but because this rotation, the torso rotation is pretty big, right? It's more than slight. You want it in a little bit so that you're pulling with your stronger muscles. I think I do that, definitely. And when I pull, I definitely have like a part where I like get set, right? Like not all the way out here I start pulling, right? Like I get set, and then here's the strongest part, and I do follow through all the way as well. But I feel like the strongest part is here, and that's where I put the most, you know, speed and power in my pull. Hey Ahmed, if you want to play, try to find your way to the Chess Dojo Club on chess.com, and then from that club you can click into the events and play in them. Or if you can find our Twitch On Twitch, there are these automated commands that give you direct links to the tournaments. Oh, interesting, Dabo. So you're saying when I come in, I shouldn't be fully extended until I come here? I think I reach pretty fully before I put my hand into the water. Because I'm afraid of like pushing forward with my hand once it's in the water, because then I'm pushing against where I'm trying to go. So I think I try and reach like pretty far before coming into the water. But yeah, because I'm also kind of like I don't want to do my pull until I've got my hand in front of me to like point me, so I'm not wasting my strength until my hand's in front of me. So in terms of the rotation, I think as my hand's going in is like when my arm's rotating down. Or when my side is rotating down. Okay, a barrel's in front of your body. I'm trying to put my arm over the barrel. That's how far I'm reaching, you mean? I saw a weird video where somebody was saying, instead of doing this kind of recovery, he was saying just like flop your whole arm over. So he was having people swim like flop, flop. But I had learned to sort of like raise your elbow and then sort of bring your arm across and then put it in. It's fun, right, Carl? It's fun. So Black heaves turtling, grabs a little space finally, brings the knight back. Oh, look at that knight headed maybe to h5 finally. But now, after bringing the knight to the other side, white plays b4. Uh-oh. And black tries to spring in. But we trade that bishop. That was not our best piece. Watch out, though. Let's be careful. Black's got a lever here where this rook could get into the game. They've got the rook looking down at the king here. To me, it was very inconsistent for white to go for b4 here when the knight was almost at this point, right? What was black going to do against knight here? I feel like what I do is probably the high elbow recovery, but I will look it up to make sure I'm right. But be aggressive. Okay. Mailbox, but be aggressive. Mailbox. Now the knight came to h5. Uh-oh. D-pawn's hanging. Gets threatened. Uh-oh. Allows rook takes d4 check. Doesn't play rook d4 check? G-pawn's trying to queen. G-pawn's trying to queen. Ay, ay, ay. That could have gone completely the other way. Okay, have a good flight, Alexander. Oh, really, Dabo? I think you're right. I think when I'm rotated this way, I do start to sort of stretch backward with the shoulder and then rotate it in with the entry. I'm supposed to always keep it a little bit like this, you think? That feels weird. Huh. Knight h5. That makes sense. Looking to chase the rook away from the pawn. Right? We've got control of g7. Now we need control of g8 for white here. Oh, this bishop's not able to get over there. Now I'm feeling like a win for white. But there's a dramatic moment here, right? Where after bishop c8, white played knight g7. Black could have maybe grabbed this pawn with check. But instead they sacrificed this pawn. The king defended d4. And now black's just back to defending, I feel like. Knight c4, trying to trade this knight and win this pawn. But if the pawn comes to g7, the rook defends it. And I don't see how this bishop stops the move knight f6 from coming. Well, I normally don't get to practice on the weekend, Stamen. But, you know, I would just try one thing at a time, knowing me, right? I'm not going to try and do all of this at once. I have not ever heard of total immersion. Knight c4, check. B takes c4. King takes c4, giving your g-pawn. Oh no, 8 bells. This guy was the truth. Oh my goodness. For that c-pawn that was going nowhere. Good one, Mars. Oh, now we're back to square one again. Right, black's bishop can even emerge as well now. Oh, this was the end, right? G7 and then knight f6. I know they're tired. Right? But you're one step away. You just gotta like force that focus, right? Force that focus. You were one step away from the finish line there. Well, I guess 2 steps because you have to see rook h8 or knight f6 next. But once you've played g7, I feel like it's coming. C4 check, allowing king takes b4. White bleeds another pawn. And now that knight is stuck on h5. Uh-oh, that's weird. Weird / problematic. Whoa. Black was really concerned with the c6 pawn. Sacks the e pawn to save it. Interesting choice. Very creative, too. I mean, it's showing that black's really seeing the full board even after all this time that they've been playing. I rotate a lot to breathe, Stamen, yeah. I have to really turn my head. I can't breathe with the water on my face, kind of. I feel like I overturned, but I haven't figured out how to make that any better. I've I've thought maybe that's one of the worst parts of my entire stroke is like how much I turn. I just feel like it could be very, very disruptive as far as your drag, but is there a reason rook takes c8 isn't good? Oh my god! Purple leopard's the only one paying proper attention. Rook c7, the c pawn was the little thing. The bishop is the big pawn. Takes the pawn, not the bishop. Oh no, and the bishop escapes. And escapes in a big way. Whew. They're tired now, you know, little details dropping here and there. Oh, I got it, Dabo, yeah. Total immersion freestyle swimming demonstration. Thank you. I rotate my torso quite a bit, but I think when I'm rotating my head, I might be over-rotating the head. Check! Ay, what a battle. Now maybe the rook wants to come back around. Yeah, probably. Bishop b5, nice move defending that pawn. Hello. How are you? It's going to be very hard for white to win this endgame. They basically got one pawn to do it with. These f-pawns are not doing it. Bishop b5 was a nice move. Because if black had gone straight for the rook activation, white can take this. It's a free pawn. It puts pressure on this bishop. So I think bishop b5 was nice. Right, the king has this square if it really needs it. All right. Forward or backward for the king? C5 looks potentially promising. That said, I would improve the rook first. It's a little bit sidelined here. And the pawn and bishop are defending each other. So you might want to keep them connected until your rook's in the game. Because white could attack with the rook and knight against these. So my instinct is, you know, get the rook into the game. Alyekin's cats made a few quick moves somewhere along the way here and got their time up a little bit. Again, it had been down to 2-3 minutes. So that's good. Let's see if our other game's still going. Okay, Armada finally won that game while we had our eyes on this one. So we saw queen e3, knight c4, takes, e5, queen, grabs. Here I thought Hoki was doing pretty good. f4, queen c7, b3, king b2. Yeah, look, the rook is kind of languishing on g7. Queen e5 trying to play f6 at some point, perhaps, right? Yeah. Oh, thud. I think rook h5 check was also winning for white, by the way, although it's very complicated. Queen h5, though, is much simpler. It's the same geometry, but just resignation. Man, that plan with f5, f6, that was hard for a Hoki gamer to handle. But I feel like, here the position's good, and Hokey Gamer just didn't know what to do to improve the position, right? The bishop didn't get out, and they never took the d file. They're like trying to win on this file, but couldn't quite find the knockout and kind of swam around it in circles, right? The rook comes back to the c file again, and finally white achieves their plan. Yeah. Yeah, Spencer, Hokey resigned here. I mean, not only is it a double threat, but queen h7 on its own is probably winning here, right? Even if it were a single threat, right? Just can't get it together to bring a defender here now. So, hey, Hokey, great game. Definitely some wandering here for a while, as I was just saying, right? Between the queen and rook, you couldn't like really pick a clear plan. You were hoping to win here. You couldn't quite break through. And then there was just kind of some back and forth. We had an amazing plan suggested in chat, which one I wanted to mention to you. I think it was from Mystic, who was playing tonight earlier, one of the higher rated players in this tournament. They were saying if you play f6 and e5 as a plan at some point, that lets your rooks and queens communicate along the second rank, right? I can't really draw arrows here, unfortunately, on this board, but you get that space open, so your rooks and queen can both defend g7 and h7, but maybe also fight on the d and c files. At the same time, when you play e5, you're going to get some use out of the bishop, which never really did too much. It's not the biggest deal. It's not the bishop that brought you down, but it was like not fully being able to use the rooks. And this f6 idea was like a really cool idea, I thought. When I heard it, I thought, oh, that's really cool. All right, so we got this game here still going. Oh my god, some kind of combination just happened. Check here, here. e6, sacking the knight. Cooking with fire. Rook takes knight e7. Knowing that wherever black goes, you can always take this bishop. The rook can't get back. Oh, goodness. And then, yeah, the king gets off of the pin, but you just take, make the queen anyway. Now queen e7 could end the game. This is live. If white doesn't find queen e7, it could still be a tough endgame. I'm not sure how hard this endgame is. Yeah, when you got a couple minutes plus the increment, it's hard to know. Found queen e7. 8 bells did it. Yeah, when you've got between like 4 and 10 minutes plus a 30-second increment, you don't know when to I guess Alyekin's cat did not find that game grueling. It's hard to know when to use a few minutes, when to play a couple quick moves. Definitely a tricky question. Goodness gracious, Alyekin's cat goes right into another game. After that epic and grueling one. But we're going to finally pop over to the over 1600 section, which we have not yet ventured into. Me neither, Hokey Gamer. Me neither. All right, let's see what games we got going over here. Only one game still going. One extra pawn for white. It's on normal books, actually, Stamen, or non-chess books. There's Diary of a Wimpy Kid and a lot of French novels. A collection of Roald Dahl for the kids. Would rook c7 be a good move here for white? Perhaps. This is a delicate position. White's up a pawn, but with the f pawn moved, the king's a little fragile, so we have to be careful. Bishop's unanchored, rook's unanchored. I don't know, Carl. It varies. This year I might have read 10 books since January. Good night, Hokie. It was a great game. Thanks for playing, and I'll see you around. And piano, for sure, Stamen. For sure. Did your kids like piano right away, or did they have to get past like a certain hump? Did they have to like get into it? Because my kids initially are like, oh, we just want to, well, my son wants to just read books and my daughter wants to knit. And so they're like, don't make me do something that's not what I already wanted to do or whatever, they want to stick with what they got. Right. Love-hate thing. But then it's one of those things nobody wants to be told what to do every single day by their parent, right? To have to practice and stuff. Or even if you don't force them to practice as much, still everything's a bit of an imposition. But it's such a great thing to have, ultimately. Welcome to the dojo, crazy cyberboy. 20 minutes left for British Capital Games, and they go for a sort of consolidating move, bringing the queen back to defend the bishop and the rook from here and the A pawn, and just maybe trying to get into the center. For some reason, I was thinking of putting the rook maybe here at some point, because d4 seems like a key square. Normally, the files that are further away are better than the files that are closer to the pawn structure, because you're a little further from some short-range pieces that can attack you. In this case, it's only the kings that are short-range, so it doesn't matter so much, as usual, perhaps. Because the kings aren't out there doing the fighting just yet, right? Sorry about this wrapper. Just getting out my macadamia nut. Exam prep. All right. What do you study, Spencer? Just out of curiosity. I don't mean to like delay you, but what kind of an exam are you getting ready for? Do you like Bobby Fischer's games, Peep Show? I think it's a very good idea to build an opening repertoire around a player whose chess really speaks to you. To have one, or for some people a couple, but to have like a chess hero or a chess avatar or a chess spirit animal or whatever you want to call it, right? But somebody who's kind of like your model. You're trying to play games like them. Build a repertoire similar to theirs, sure. Physics, chem, maths. Looks like you're in England. And extra English. Okay. Cool. Well, good luck with the exams. Anybody who's studying Saturday morning at 7:30 a.m. is going to do well. Queen A3. F5. That's the big fighting back move. I hadn't even seen that move, but I was afraid about the looseness here. Totally, Mars. Totally. Maybe white should have even tucked the bishop, because I don't know how we're going to answer F5. Don't know how we're going to answer it. That sounds great, Dabo. Does that make sense, Mars Robinson, what Dabo's saying here? You can go to the Games Explorer on chess.com, put in a player's name, and then just basically download their repertoire from the millions of Blitz games they've played. I think for Peep Show, who's talking about Bobby Fischer's games, it's going to be more general than that, right? You're not going to download every Bobby Fischer game, but you're going to say, okay, Bobby played the Rui, right? Bobby played this line against the Caro, this line against the Sicilian. He played open Sicilians, right? He played the Rui Lopez. As black, he played the Najdorf Sicilian and the Gruenfeld and King's Indian, you know, and so you're going to like pick some openings that he played a lot and choose those as your openings. And you're probably going to play some more modern move orders in some cases, right? But you're going to play his style right there. And then what you can do is, if you're ever having trouble with some particular variation, right? Like, let's say you feel you're scoring badly against, I don't know, the Scandinavian or something. Then you would just look up games played by Bobby Fischer in the Scandinavian, or whoever your chess hero is, right? If it's Daniil Dubov, you'd go Daniil Dubov, you know, games in the Scandinavian. And you just play through 3 or 4 of his games, and how he plays over time is going to match how you want to play, you know, more and more and more. So it's likely that he'll be playing variations that look, you know, attractive to you, and that he's going to end up playing some of the same structures as you, or, you know, go for attacks when you might want to go for attacks, or play positionally when you might want to play positionally, etc. And then, yeah, over a bunch of games, you start to attune to that. So what did white come up with? Bishop F2. So against pawn takes, queen takes, rook e1. Black has the move queen c6. It defends everything. Queen b3, king h8. Doesn't break anything. The queen can recapture. It's on one diagonal. So she's not going to lose control of anything. But I think white's idea might be on fe4, which was played to play rook e1 first, not to recapture. Then I guess black moves the queen somewhere, hoping to still get everything back, right? Like here. Hoping to recapture here. But if now white trades everything, can they go queen b3? There's still an answer. Wow. Queen f5 would be worse than queen d5, at least from that first thing we saw, because there'd be check. After the king moves, you trade everything on e4 and take this pawn. So I think queen d5 feels like the likely response to rook e1. And then can white ramp up the pressure at all there? Rook e1 played. I don't see anything amazing for white. It looks like they may have slipped. Oh, no, there's queen b3. That's what there is, right? Purple leopard ends queen d5. There is the move. Queen b3. Queen's hanging. And it's on this diagonal, so it probably takes. We take back. And now this pawn is still pinned, right? Oh, so black played queen c6, not queen d5. So now I think white can play queen b3 check and still come out ahead of pawn somehow. Thanks for the support, 11 years. So now queen b3 check. Basic idea is check here, takes, and if black takes, you take. Against queen c1, you retreat the rook. Against queen e4, you take here. And luckily, your bishop's covering queen e1, and your queen's covering queen b1. So, you're up a pawn. But white's hesitating. It's their move. They don't have tons of time. Getting dangerously low. I don't really see what else there is to do other than play queen b3. I don't see any risk in queen b3, so I would just play it and save my time for later down the road, because problems will come up. Queen c5, huh? Trying to bully the queen and still win this pawn. Yeah, fine move. I agree. Doesn't change my assessment that I would play queen b3 check in a few seconds. This does everything that a move could do, right? I mean, we're happy to even back to king up because there's more back rank stuff against black. Happy to get on this diagonal. Yeah, queen c5 looks good too. I don't see anything wrong with it either. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. You trade queens and the pawn on e4 still looks pretty done for. Unless there's rook c8, Dabo. I must be tired saying I don't see anything, and then there was this possible, right? That completely ruins white's day. I didn't see it. I mean, a minute ago. King h8. Now you have to just take the pawn with fe4. It's not really anything else. Rook e4 loses, which is pretty devastating from this position as white. Queen c1. It's mate. So f takes e4. We just don't have the pieces to do anything, right? Rook's back on e1, bishop on f2. No threats. Rook f8 is correct, yeah. White takes. So the extra pawn has survived. Black still has fair chances to draw, 50-50. Sure, it could be played, but why? This move looked good. Take the pawn. Queen's on a good square here on b3. Oh, you were afraid I wasn't winning a pawn. Yeah, I was winning a pawn like this for white. And I'd actually be slightly happy to see black take on e4. I don't think black will. But as white, I like transferring to this outside passer from this simplification. Right on, Armoda. Glad you enjoyed it. You got a great game out of it anyway, right? So it was interesting for sure. Rook e4 from black. I'm surprised. A simplifying move that gives white that outside pass pawn to run. I wonder if black's planning to play bishop d4 immediately. Oh my god, yes. They just played those moves as fast as I could enter them. These were like 1 second moves. That was the only reason I could think that black might go for this. Right, Dabo. If we want to do something fancy for white here, which you might guess we do, because queen e1's a pretty big threat, and bishop takes, queen takes, king here, queen here is a draw. So white wants to do something fancy, so I imagine queen check, king here, queen check. Black has to go to h6 to avoid queen d6 or d8 check, right? Going after this piece. You gotta hide. Queen c1, check, now covering the back rank. Black can play a move like g5 or whatever they like. But now white is free and clear to play a move like h3 or bishop takes bishop and king h1 because the queen's already in place guarding all this. So actually that makes sense. That fancy continuation makes a lot of sense, Dabo, that might be white's best. That queen b8. Yeah, interestingly, queen f1, I think black's fine with bishop takes bishop. Queen b8's been played, by the way. If king takes, check, and you're forced to come back, dropping the a pawn. Wait a minute. Here, oh yeah, that's lucky for black. Queen's on point. She can take a2 and there's no mate. Okay, so we got check here, check here. Check. Perfect. Found that nice and quick, did British Capital Games. Well, to me, trading on d4 seems like the safest, and just tucking the king on h1. No, I don't think Dabo's playing the game. This British Capital Games is probably British. Dabo, as it turns out, is from New York, or in New York. Hey, Moscow. So h3 is desirable, but then takes, and I mean, it's not desirable to have the king here and have to go back and tuck it. So I'm in favor of just taking, going here, and then playing h3 myself when I need to. Try and advance this pawn whenever I can. Oh, bishop d4 check played. All right, so now we get the endgame I am the worst at out of all endgames. Stamen and 5,000 British Capital Games agree with me, thinking that trading on d4 is the simplest. I feel you, Armoto. That's exactly my feeling. No clue what is happening. And to me, the worst thing about Armada is having to calculate those long sequences of like 8 checks in a row and decide whether the king gets away or not. Oh, man. Normally, I like calculating, but just some like turning around in circles on an empty board with a queen checking a king, like endlessly, and seeing if the king's ever doing some pattern where the queen can't follow. Oh, God. Moscow asks, what do you usually do when you're matched with a considerably stronger opponent in the tournament? Do you play for a draw? Do you try to conserve energy for other games? You mean by just resigning without playing? What I usually do is I try to beat the hell out of them. I try to, I look through their games, I try and find some weakness, then I try to figure out how to checkmate them. I don't play for a draw, I don't play for a loss. I don't play to conserve energy, I play to play. And the goal of the game of chess is to win the game of chess, so I try to win it. How do you find a weakness in their games? You don't have to be right necessarily about it being a weakness, right? Like, I might be wrong sometimes when I think I spot a weakness. You just have to have something that they do that you think looks wrong. That's part of your visualization, your concept for how you could outplay them and beat them and win a game against them. So it could be, that they lose a bunch of knight endgames. It could be that no matter how good they are, they've probably played people who are better than them. So you can find some games they lost, look at those games, and see how they lost. Right? Did they lose in the end game, the opening, the middle game? If you look at their moves, do you see any moves that you don't like? Those will attune you to some values of theirs that might be wrong. Of course, Moscow. I'm seeing some difficulty keeping the first rank covered while trying to play a4. Because this queen's on a great square. Defending a4, centralized, can give a lot of checks on our king. And from here, she's also covering a1 and d1. So we might have to go for a setup for white where we go like h3, a3, queen e1. And then at some point our queen pops out to b4 or g3, anticipating king h2 to come. And queen b4, queen a1 doesn't seem to do it, so we might have to play this really passive, safe queen g3. It is so difficult. That's right, Dabo. h3. So there's no back rank mate. Right? The queen would be ideal behind the pawn, but she can't get there for now. So I see h3, a3, queen e1. Then she ends up on g3, defending the king and the pawn. But I still don't yet see how we threaten to play a4. Could you play h3 and queen c2 to try to play a4? Gotcha. So h3 and queen c2, you're going to get checked on a1, king h2, checked on e5, king g1, checked on d4. Could you play g3 when you're checked this way? Perhaps. Yeah, but moving the g pawn, I mean, really increases the chances for perpetuals later. So my sense is, Buddha, that we'll get the pawn up one step, but it'll eventually still be, there'll be room for black to give a perpetual. But I can't see for sure if my plan gives white anything either. It's hard to know. Refill the water. Black's going to play h5. Yep, h5. black's not afraid of getting their king perpetualed. So when white sets up some little cozy hut for the king, black is happy to move every pawn forward and explode it and make some way to... does this desk go up? Whoa, but it's got like plants and stuff on it. Okay. I don't know if that's a good idea. I don't know if that's a good idea. Yeah, so essentially, white played h3. Essentially, black would be happy to play g4, trade off any pawns. It increases the chance of a perpetual. And the sooner the better from black's perspective, I think, to get those moves in. Good morning, Robin. Our friends in Portugal are probably getting up pretty soon, if not now. Yeah, it's 8 in Central Europe. Portugal, it's still 7 a.m. though, so I would guess that my coasty coast is sleeping. And I don't know the sleep habits of Matt, Rachel, and Anushka in general. I know Matt hasn't been sleeping well in Portugal, so there's a good chance he's up. Buenos dias, Luis. And I guess in Spain it's 8 o'clock, so it's in Portugal. Portugal's a different time zone than Spain, I guess. I think. Unless Spain has more than one time zone. Let me see. Let me look that up. 8 a.m. in Madrid as well, yeah. Hey, Min, thanks for the raid. To my viewers and followers, here's a link to follow Min, a very strong grandmaster and very friendly guy from the Vietnamese Olympiad team, as well as the internet. Give him a raid. Wonderful guy. Being humble is one of the things that makes him so great. Yeah. For those of you just joining us on the raid, this is a weekly event here. We've been doing it for ages. It's Friday night fights, we call it. I know for some people it's already Saturday. For most people it's already Saturday. So yeah, it's Friday night fights. We have people playing classical games against each other every Friday night or Saturday morning or Saturday midday for some of you. It's a dojo institution. It's great practice, tough battles, good stuff. Yeah, Portugal is different. Am I commenting the final round of Maya? No, I am not. Kosti's got somebody else to cover the final round, I think. Oh, that makes sense, Robin. Queen E1. Predicted all of this half an hour ago. Yeah, the final round of Maya is in just under 3 hours, and I'm going to be asleep then. Yeah, I'm going to sleep soon. I commented the previous round of Maya, and I haven't slept yet, so, you know, sleep has to fit in there somewhere. Yeah, I mean, I don't always grind, but this Maya tournament was a special and fun thing, so I wanted to see the games, so I watched them when I could. Have I been impressed by Blood Queen's performance in particular? Seemed normal to me. Have you been impressed by it? I'm impressed relates to expectations. I think they're all doing fine. Nobody's just run away with it. Nobody's fallen apart. They're all they're all doing a pretty good job. Oh yeah, good fights, Oscar. Good fights. Another thing black could do is put the pawn on h4, right? Which kind of stops my queen g3 setup I was going for, right? a3 and queen g3. But it does, black's just played h4. It does make it harder to play g4, very hard to play g4. And the queen kind of wants to stay on this pawn now. This queen's amazing here on d4. Very hard to push away. She was nervous leading up to the tournament, yeah. Because, Chicago Open didn't go so well for her. And for most people, if you're coming off, for most people, when your most recent tournament was bad, there's going to be confidence issues until you've played a good tournament. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're thinking of getting the queen here and here. I see what you mean. So, like, white could have done the transfer at this point, right? Check here and here. The reason I wanted to do it the way I was going to do it is because of queen a1 check. That's why I was thinking we have to sort of go slowly. We have to put the pawn on a3. And I was even thinking queen e1. I don't know why for sure, but our capital gamer did it as well. I was thinking like a3, queen here, and then try to come out. Not that I can see yet, Screws. I mean, definitely white would love to trade queens, but I see no way to force it. It's an open board. White doesn't have a lot of pawns, so not a lot of support points to approach the black queen, right, from a defended square. And maybe the move queen g1 could be like interesting at some point, but yeah, I mean, like, how do you approach this queen to trade her off, right? There's almost no way to do it. And then if she just moved, like, if you played something like queen g1, for example, then she just comes here. Now how do you get at her, right? Still kind of the same problem, right? Very hard to trap a queen on an open board or force her into anything, and hard to even approach her. White's biggest problem is that they can't even offer a trade that black could back off from in order to take over central territory with white's queen. As long as black's queen is here, it's got every possible angle on the white king to give perpetuals. It's very, very hard to make any progress for white. So white gives the check, king h6. And here, if you go king h2, black still has queen f4. But you are covering queen d6 and queen e5. So from here, you could play a move like a3. And black can't... Oh, it's just been played. And queen d1, king h2. Black would be out of checks temporarily, right? And queen a1, king h2 as well. So white does that. They just nudge the pawn up to a3, which they could have also done without queen e7. Fine. And then the question would be, what might be a next step from here. I've thought of queen b4, but black has queen a1, queen e5, and I don't really see with any certainty how to make that work from white's side. So I'm not sure what any next step would be here. Yeah, in this case, the easier said than done. It's like 10 to the 100 times easier said than done. 10 to the 10 to the 10 to the 100 times easier to say white would like to trade queens than to go ahead and trade those queens. I see what you mean, Stamen. But the truth is, with G3, you open a diagonal to your king when your queen's already trying to cover a rank, right? So with the pawn on G3, there's just nothing you can do to ever keep the black queen at bay. You have nowhere to go hide, right? You need this G pawn to cover one of the angles to your king so your queen can cover the others. But when he's got this angle and this angle, when she's got this angle and this angle, there's nothing to do. There's no choice. So yeah. So the always H3, never G3 and queen endings definitely has its reason. Definitely has its reason. Yeah, specifically G3, queen D5 as well, sure. Could lose the pawn, but I think Stamen was just saying, as like a choice of how you set it up. You could play A3, right? Black does this, and you could put your pawn here. Sorry, G3. Sorry, what am I trying to do? A3. Okay, it didn't register like my king move. And G3. Right, you could do it without hanging this pawn, but you always give the opponent too many angles to your king by advancing the G pawn. That's essentially immutable with only two pawns. Everything has its exceptions, but I can't think of an exception to that, really. Shiogura, this is 5,000 British Capital Games as white versus chess name 75 as black. I don't know too much more about them other than that they both played last week as well. That they've got high ratings. Yeah, there is a warrior-like quality to them. You're the first person to say that, Shirogurov. I'm impressed. Yeah, the screen capture I have just kind of really cuts it off for the clock, for the big clock. I mean, they started with an hour and 30, so the clock did need to have the hours on it. Oh, maybe a touch. Okay. This one's not too confusing yet, but they normally always have a point where they become really confusing. And when that happens, that's when my brain just kind of detonates. Black's more or less happy to do nothing here, but you have to do something that does nothing, right? You have to find the move that disturbs nothing. King H5, G5. Oh, Black's done something. I'm going to guess G5. Nope. King H5 played. Who is the all-time king of queen endgames? Is it Magnus? I think he's probably the best at queen endgames that I know of. Shirogurov, yeah. Although, I mean, he's far from perfect as well. I remember at queen endgame he played with Fabi. that seemed really good, but actually, they'd kind of done some blundering back and forth, even one or two moves away from the end, when it was, in theory, the number of possible moves had dwindled a lot. The pawn that was going to decide the game had already gotten to maybe the second rank, so it was the last couple moves to calculate, and they didn't even get it right. He allowed a draw. Fabi didn't find it. Lost. So I don't know anyone better at queen endings than Magnus. Noterbeck is also very good at them, Shirgorov. I thought of his name when you asked your question. I thought of the names Magnus, Hikaru, and Noterbeck when you asked your question. And notably, Noterbeck has beaten Magnus in 2 queen endgames that were very well played by Noterbeck. So that definitely makes his name pop up. I mean, if there were any endgame that Magnus was not the best in the world at, it might be a queen ending. Because they're so different and difficult. Can White try g4 here? White doesn't have a lot of time left to try anything. Queen h7 check doesn't really do anything, right? It just puts the white queen off where she can't do any of her jobs, which are defending the a pawn and defending the king. Right? After king g5, the best thing about it is that you can come back and sort of retract the move you've just played. Queen e2 check. Could that do anything? King back to h6. Queen e2 check, king h6, queen g4. I think black can go queen a1, queen e5, etc. Under 5 minutes goes white. I don't see anything special either. I'm looking at queen b4, queen e2 to g4, king h2 immediately. Move blade, queen e2. So king h6. Yeah, queen f4 made sense for black as well, Carl. Only move for who here, Stamen? King h6 or king g5? King g5 loses to queen g4. So yeah, it's an only move for black. A little bit strange to spend a minute on it. White followed up by just going back where they came from, queen e1. So yeah. I don't know if it was an important tempo, Carl, since white's kind of at a standstill. It's not really a big deal. Doesn't feel like black's, got to pay big time for this. For whether the queen's on f4 or d4. The queen's so good on d4, it doesn't need to move to f4. I don't know for sure if it's any better there. Let me see for a second, Oscar. I'm always afraid that I'm gonna get stuck out and not be able to get back to my other game. It's kind of tricky on chess.com, clicking between them. Right now I see no live games in the under 1600. So if black played king h7, we would repeat a position. They could also play king h5 and white's not doing anything. Yeah, maybe there would have been more of a fight if the queen didn't start on such a good square, but I just don't see any way to fight it. Ay, ay, ay. That's great, Alvin. That's great. Yeah, I'm tired, Yegorov. I ate a chocolate-covered nut, but there are limits. Anyway. I haven't had a real break today at any point. I had maybe 6 minutes to eat a meal. That was the longest break I had today. Since the baby got up at around 6 a.m. and now 11:30 p.m. So, Queen to Ivan. Queen to Ivan, yes, well, moves the king somewhere. Yeah, Abdullah, they started with an hour and a half each, and they've got a 30-second increment on top of that. She's almost 3 now. She's just not a good sleeper. She's a great kid, Thanks, Robin. I mean, it's good advice, but my bosses are these three little angel slash devils or whatever at times. There's not like an obvious way to to manage the situation because I don't know. Maybe there's an obvious way to handle the situation. I don't know. It's a very special condition, doing the parental labor. Chess is an opium to the people. Of course it is, Robin. Yeah. Everything's an opium for the people. Well, there's not really much to say, is there? I mean, White's not really getting the king off the back rank. None of us have any ideas. You know, we've considered this before, and there's just these checks here and here. And Queen b4 is the closest thing to like a foothold for trying to get out of here, right? You're defended by the pawn. You're covering. Whoops, sorry, excuse me. You're defended by the pawn. You're challenging their dominant square. You're stopping some checks on d6 and f4. And if they go somewhere random, you're hitting h4. You know, but nothing doing. Oh, that is interesting to see, Carl. Yeah. It's good to know the chessboard and to know the pieces, you know. How many squares do they cover here and there? How many squares on the A file to stop the pawn? You know, it's interesting that the queen on d4 stops white from going to the two squares that cover a4. Isn't that interesting? And if you imagine this pawn going to a4 at some point successfully, if this queen were on e5, she would cover the two squares that the white queen would need to be on to cover the king on the first rank and try and take control over a5. So all along this diagonal are these key squares for the queen to be on to hold the a-file blockade and keep the white queen from breaking it. Queen back to c1. Yeah, Dabo. Yeah, it's that Marx quote that religion is the opium of the masses or of the people. Yeah, exactly, Mars Robinson. Queen e5. She budges. She budges. What on earth? She budges. That means the pawn can budge. After 40 minutes of posturing. What? Why did she budge? Did the king get backed up and not have any moves to wait anymore? A4. Oh. The game continues. Now the black queen really needs to stay on e5. Oh my goodness. But now there's a plan for getting the white queen out, which is she could go to b5. No, because there's queen e1, queen g3, as well as queen e1 or a1 to e5. Yeah, I was thinking you could slide, queen f1, queen b5 maybe. But this queen will still have checks, checks, checks. And the queen on b5 won't stop it. King f7. Queen d1. Lurking. Lurking. Sometimes you got 3 minutes on the clock and you just got to get a move off. So you lurk. And you wait for your opponent to mysteriously remove their queen again so you can get a little further. Yeah. A1's an amazing square for the queen. Yes, blobishiously, the king could come out. Generally, it won't escape. Like here, white could play queen g4. It's their move. Generally, the king won't escape from perpetual check once it comes out. Oh, it looks like we don't even have to let it out. But let's say I played check here and let the king out. Normally, the king can't escape from checks. Right? I keep my queen on a4 so you can't cross the fourth rank. If you ever block with the queen, I take the a pawn. If I, check wisely. Very rare that you could come out with the king and make it all work. But I mean, occasionally, and that's sometimes the way that you have to go to try and make progress or to try and keep the game going. Queen d7 tried. So here the idea could be king h6, check, king back a5, allowing here, 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 and then trying to come out. Well, I mean, you're not trying to come out, but avoiding the repetition by reluctantly coming out, let's say. Something like that might be white's idea. Black plays king h6, check, check. So here white could consider a5. Or, or bring the queen back to the first rank for now. Yeah, if your goal is learning, there's no harm for either player playing as many moves as possible in this queen ending. The commentator is a little bit lame, and he was kind of hoping that the game would end at 11 or so and he would go to bed. But the players are not looking like they've got that kind of weakness to them. So white goes for it, and black's going to have to give a bunch of checks, and the difficult phase of the queen ending comes up. The first 40, 50 minutes that they played this queen ending, there was not too much going on. And then just when it looked like it would end in a draw, black moved the queen off of d4. The pawn got one step up, created just enough new angles that white has a way to try and go for it with bringing the king out. Thank you, Robin. It's kind of you. It's kind of you. But who's going to take over commenting the game? Some people have been waiting for a long time to know the results of this game. I guess while waiting for the result, I can occasionally go do 10 seconds of cleaning. No, sleep is always the best. It's true. Depends what the topic is. Which book is from 2003, Alvin? Yeah, you would need more pieces on the board for a taste line, huh, Mars? Wow, look at that maneuver from Capital Games. Wow, I didn't see that one coming. So check here. Check. Oh, man. You know, Chess Name is not making it easy for themselves because this is just like a straight slip up here with Queen E5, letting the king come here. You should be giving this check on A1, right? Yeah. Oh, Yasser's Winning Chess Strategies is a good book, Alvin, but it's like it's kind of like an intro to strategy. I think you're too strong for that book. It's a great book, but it's for players like around 12 to 1400. It's like super good, but I think Alvin, you're kind of past it. Sorry to say that. Oh man, a little slip. Wait, black could take A5 though. That's not the end of the world for black, is it? No, it doesn't matter. Oh my god, and it's gonna go on a million more moves. Helston's strategy book, yeah, that's gonna be a pretty high level book. All right. Game agreed drawn. Yeah. Well, there's no way for white to win this game. So, disappointing finish? No, that was fine. That was fine. You want them to keep going? That went a long time. That was a great one. I'm just going to run off to sleep. Good game to Chess Name and good name to British Capital Games. Bravo. Beautiful stuff, folks. Beautiful stuff. Well done. Well fought. Applause all around. And yeah, folks, reminder for those of you who prefer games a little faster than this, we've got a rapid tournament basically every Sunday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific. It's a 3-hour arena. And the last round in Maya starts in about 2 hours. There'll be live commentary, I think, on our channel by somebody covering for Kostya and me. So yeah, with that, take care and see you soon.